last few days we were avoiding this topic of stampede. I am combining all those articles and I am coming up with this comprehensive issue brief based on National Disaster Management Authority's guidelines, NDMA guidelines. So let us understand this topic and it's relevant for our exams. In GS3 you have disaster management. In disaster management, stampede as a disaster, how to manage it, that's the scope of this discussion. Very short brief, not more than 10 minutes. Okay. Now, see this issue, whatever you are preparing in this class, no matter how many years you go forward, the answer is going to be the same. So, whatever we are discussing in today's class, I want you to put it in your notes for your final exam whenever you are writing. The only value addition is quoting new technologies that might have come up, like some AI technologies or crowd management frameworks. If there are any updates, those points can be added there. Otherwise, more or less, the entire framework of thought will be the same. Now, firstly, we shall understand the definition of stampede, technical definition. Okay, what do you mean by stampede? Sudden, first point, uncontrolled rush of crowd leading to crushing of the people there. Sudden and uncontrolled. And this is the major challenge. We are not aware of this. So, if you want to manage this, we need to come up with a better preparedness, right? So, let's say an event like whatever happened in Bangalore, the celebration ceremony, the organizers must have anticipated a certain number and managed the entry into that area. Okay, otherwise, because there is no way, once that kind of crowd reaches there, there's no way that small set of population, small set of personnel who are managing that situation, they cannot control beyond a point. Preparedness is the first thing. Okay, now what are its characteristics? Firstly, high crowd density. What do you mean by density? Let's say this is some area. Number of people who come to that area. Normally, this place can accommodate 4 people. Let's say, for example, what if 40 people come into that area? That kind of situation describes a high crowd density. Okay. Second, accelerated movements. Meaning, either there is fear or excitement or enthusiasm, whatever may be the cause. In normal situations, you would anticipate that the crowd would move at a certain pace, but suddenly the crowd starts panicking or they get excited and they want to rush in, or they don't have a structured thought process as to how they should behave in that situation, either because of panic or excitement, and that will cause accelerated movements and therefore panic happens. Within NDMA guidelines, if you see the classifications, stampede is therefore a man-made disaster occurring at a mass gathering. So these are the basic steps that you can think of. Okay, sudden, uncontrolled, high crowd density, accelerated movements, man-made disasters. These are the keywords that you should be writing in the introduction. Now, to quote some important events that happened in the past is the second thing that you can think of. See, this is the historically whatever happened, some notable stampedes, some tragic events, which can be case studies. But for your current affairs sake, you can quote the latest RCB celebration issue, and even the famous Pushpa movie release. In both those situations, they caught public imagination because both events are associated with something that Indians closely relate to: movies and and cricket, cinema and cricket. Similar incidents happen in many other events also, and all those events have something in common. Whatever we discussed, high crowd density, mass gatherings. Okay, even in Kumbh Mela, there were incidents reported that stampedes happened. Now, the next aspect that you need to understand is the human factor in stampedes. Understanding these factors is important for coming up with a solution. Each of that we will describe. Panic or fear. Let's say a crowd coming to that kind of a place, do you think they're trained to behave in a certain way, or they only think about themselves? They only think about themselves. So this element should be factored in. Excitement, same thing like fear. Impatience, frustration, creating a scenario where they're pushing each other. Wild rush behavior, when they want to capture some freebies which are distributed there, or any exits that are there, they just want to walk in and walk out very quickly. Impatience and frustration. So essentially it's all about um, human emotions and emotional intelligence. This is something that you see in GS4. Okay, and most importantly, rumors. False information induces fear and panic. Let's say there is a bomb scare in a cricket stadium. People want to escape that situation. They rush. Small gates, a crowd of 4,000, 5,000 in one particular stand want to exit through a small gate. That would lead to a stampede like situation. In all these situations, the common element is human emotion. And without addressing this human emotion element, any plan that you can think of is not going to succeed. That's the first takeaway. Okay. A very good case study which was in news recently is how IPL organizers dealt with a situation in Dharamshala. Okay. On the context of Operation Sindoor, there was a news that the stadium needs to be evacuated. On the eve of Operation Sindoor, there was a crowd in that stadium. Instead of announcing that something like this was happening, they were saying that there are going to be attacks and all. What the organizers did was they switched off the floodlights first, and once the floodlights was declared as failure, the game came to a halt. Signals were jammed. So police started evacuating that stand in a very normal way. There is no panic, no fear, no excitement. There was discipline. Once people moved out of that, other stands also started leaving. And in that way, the entire stadium was created without, entire stadium was evacuated without any panic. You can quote that as a case study. See, your answers get enriched because of case studies like this only. Was there any innovation there? Nothing. Common sense. Now, what are the major causes of infrastructure failure and organization failure leading to a stampede? We have to discuss them, corroborate them or substantiate them with examples for each of them. Overcrowding beyond capacity. Example, RCB victory rally. Narrow walkways and blocked exits. Here you can talk about Elephantine. There is a station in Mumbai. There stampede happened. This is the situation there. It's a very old bridge, Elephantine. I don't remember the name exactly. Just check the name of the station once. It's a local station. This happened way back in 17, 18, somewhere around that time. Okay, many years ago. Slippery floors and poor lighting. This happened in some temple, some religious gathering. Structural failures of barriers. Again, this also happened in the same incident, Mumbai. One bridge. Okay, you can talk about this situation. Morbi bridge collapse. On the bridge there was, the bridge collapsed as such in Gujarat. But even near the bridge, people started panicking and it almost led to a stampede-like situation. Fire hazards and electrical issues. There is, in 1998, there is a theatre, movie theatre in Delhi, Upahar Cinema. A fire broke out in that theatre and people got killed. No, people got killed not because of fire. It is because of both fear, stampede, and also the fire. Situations like that should be avoided. For each of this, you have to quote an example. Now, when it comes to organizational failures, inadequate trained staff, you can quote this recent movie theaters, Sandhya Theatre and Pushpa movie release. Poor venue planning, same example you can give. Communication breakdown. See, sometimes at a local situation, like for example, in any religious gatherings, very strict coordination is required. If you go to a temple like Tirumala, you have waiting compartments. It's well planned, well organized. But in events where that level of organization and training is absent, at least you need to have a coordinated communication. In the absence of that communication, again things will fall out. Ticket overselling. This happened in one of the IPL situations in Hyderabad. People rushed to buy tickets of IPL. Instead of selling it online, Hyderabad Cricket Association has placed some venues offline. There were many accusations. One factor is that black tickets were sold, and one factor is that only few locations had that ticket selling window. And because of this, what happened is people rushed to those sites because the time period, the window of time where those tickets were sold is very small, and people were excited to buy the tickets. So the management was at fault there. Locked emergency exits. In many situations, some buildings have emergency exits only for namesake, just for complying with the local municipality norms, but they are not functional. Because they cannot be guarded, additional security personnel is an additional cost to that building management. They just lock it. And they don't take care of this even in times of emergencies, like large crowd gatherings. Many coaching centers are an example for this. Recently you've seen Delhi case, or even in Gujarat, like 11th and 12th kids who were in coaching centers, they had to jump from 4th floor, 5th floor when a fire broke out. We don't have adequate infrastructure for that. limited surveillance. When you can't monitor the crowd and anticipate and predict how much crowd, how many people would be arriving at a location, even that is a organizational failure. Poor interagency coordination. For example, if state government, police, and let's say there is an audio release function of any big movie. This happened in many situations where the event organizers were not able to coordinate with the local police. Let's say a big movie star's audio function is there. It's a trend in South India. Many times it so happened that there is a mismatch between the number of passes that were given and then the kind of crowd that comes to that location. So this purely happens because of the poor interagency coordination. If an event management company gives passes for 5,000 people, how come 50,000 people come there with passes? Either they are fake passes or the organizing committee did not inform the police that they have given 50,000 passes. Common sense, but that is often missed. All this kind of situations will lead to stampedes. So you need to categorize your answers like this. Presentation really matters. Infrastructure and organizational failures. What are the NDMA guidelines? Broadly speaking, you can categorize them into these situations. First set is whenever a stampede happens, the first priority should be what is your kind of response? What are the safety mechanisms that you are taking? After that, what is the risk analysis of that situation? Or even before that, you can carry out as a preventive measure a risk analysis of that particular infrastructure element. Is it safe enough or not? And finally, how will you plan and coordinate for the future events so that stampedes don't occur? Now, let's look at the actual NDMA guidelines first before and then after stampede. Okay, so I am dividing the entire, I know this is a bit tiny, so you can just go to the NDMA guidelines and read them in a elaborate manner. No need to note this down because I have directly copied it from the NDMA guidelines only. Let's understand them one by one. Planning and capacity building. Before the occurrence of any event, you have to plan for it. So firstly, you have to understand the visitors and stakeholders. You have to understand their intent. Why are they coming? Is it for a peaceful protest? Is it for a religious gathering? Is it for any celebration? When you have celebration, there is euphoria, excitement. People are usually not in their senses. When it is for a religious gathering, people are impatient. When it is for a peaceful protest, there can be, anger, emotion, whatever may be the purpose of that protest. Understand the intent and anticipate that. The emotional aspect should be accounted for. Capacity planning. Let's say, take the case of this recent RCB. That stadium can accommodate 35,000 crowd only, and anticipation is that 3 or 4 lakh people came to the venue. How do you think the organizers will plan for it? Crowd control strategies. So if you can't manage your demand and supply, 35,000, 4 lakhs. It's poor planning, right? You have to use advanced registration. If you really want to carry that out, dole out passes, announce to the public, make it very clear. Promote off-peak visits, meaning, let's say there is a religious event. People want to visit that venue during that time. Either you plan for it, for the adequate infrastructure or the influx, or just say that, maybe you can visit some other time. That's not possible in religious events, but in any other events, it's quite possible. Let's say a movie theater. I can understand the euphoria around that. but it's practically impossible to accommodate all those people, and it should be stopped. Nothing is more important than human lives. Okay, stakeholder coordination. Simply put, take the case of any events, event organizers, local police, um, even the main people of that event, chief guests. Take the case of audio release functions or any movie star functions. Even the star should factor this in, because they will be held responsible. I'm pretty sure they don't want to be in that situation. Who would want to be in a situation where they are blamed for some misgiving that is happening? But they will be held responsible in one way or the other, and they should understand this and behave responsibly. That is the before stampede situation. Now, you also have to carry out the risk analysis and prepare for that, right? So, what are the threats? Use data to pinpoint exact risks. Is it structural failure, or is it because of overcrowding? Whatever may be the situation. Take a look at the theatre, Sandhya. It doesn't have a proper parking place. It doesn't have proper fire exits. If both the theatres are running at a full house capacity, imagine how congested it would be. Don't you think the local police or local building management authorities, the municipal corporation or anyone, they should actually factor that in? When your entry and exit is from the same gate, after one show, after the show is done, the next show crowd is coming in with vehicles. The previous show crowd is exiting through the same gates, and yet nothing is done to handle this. So there should be a better situation. Those properties are built somewhere around 1970s. The crowd at that point of time may have different, the demography is different. At that time, probably parking was not that big of an issue. So many cars may not be there. Times have changed. You cannot dictate. At least tell that you don't have parking. Okay. Risk assessment. You have to carry out some risks assessments and simulate. What if this kind of a scenario happens? Are we ready for it? If the simulation says no, should flag it. Rapid venue assessment. So let's say last minute some location was planned for a mass protest. All the roads leading to that venue and the traffic management issue, can we handle that? So if 10 lakh people are coming and gathering in a small place, for example, or let's say 1 lakh people are coming to a place like NTR Stadium, that small exit, whatever is the exit or entry, is the only point of entering or leaving. Don't you think it's a risk? Anything can happen. You have to plan for that. Okay, something like that happens. What should be the action plan? You don't know what to do. That is also something that you need to factor in. Next up, information management systems. When you don't have a protocol of how to record information, there is no standard operating procedure. So we need to build systems to manage that information. Whatever events were happening in the past, there should be a record of how that event was managed so that we can do knowledge transfer to the next generation. That is absent. Safety and security measures is common sense. What are the organizational safety measures and infrastructural safety measures that you are taking? Infrastructural safety measures like fire exits, mandatory emergency exits, all of this should be made mandatory during building planning itself. Facilities and emergency medical services. Usually you will see a lot of ambulances, etc. When events like this are happening. Prevention. Transportation and traffic management we have already discussed. Capacity building. If you don't have the training for handling situations like this, you need to train your personnel better. And legal compliance. Don't take any laws for granted. For example, if a building does not have any emergency exits and fire exits, shut it down. That's not happening, and that's the major problem. So this is what we do before the event. Prevention is better than cure. Prevent and prepare than repent and repair. Okay, unfortunately a stampede happened. What should be the immediate response? Response and recovery. Firstly, you need to have something called incident response system. Okay, you need to have a trained team that can react quickly, because they know exactly how, even though the location might change, the mindset is common everywhere. Everybody wants to take care of themselves. So with this mindset of dealing with people and also the systems, you create a system that will help minimize the damage, and that system is called the incident response system. So you need to establish emergency operation centers and incident command posts for real-time management. Basically it's like they just spring up in the anticipation, like the team should be ready. You will have, for example, whenever there is rain, you will have local bodies trying to manage the drainage of rainwater, storm water, in places where the storm water drainage is poor. Let's say for example you have this RTC crossroad area. Whenever there is a huge rain, the roads get flooded. The stormwater drains are not big enough to accommodate those kind of rains. So you will have teams which open manholes and stop the traffic temporarily till the water is dealt with. That is not a long-term solution, but at least, for the time being, disasters can be mitigated. That is not for stampede, I'm just telling you so that it's a familiar example. Emergency medical services should be there. Media should be managed so that there are no more rumors. There should be some relief. You should give food, shelter, not in normal situations, but wherever you are isolated from. Let's say Kumbh Mela. You are supposed to walk for kilometers together. What if something happens there? So you need to provide some temporary relief, right? That is the situation. Now there should also be an audit. Conduct an inquiry as to why this happened, document it, and put it there, where information management system. It's like knowledge transfer for next generation. So this should be integrated with that. And finally, you should take a legal action. If no legal action is there, this kind of situations, you are not imposing any responsibility on any stakeholder. If there is no fear that lives can be taken away in events like this, authorities do not have any moral responsibility. So we have to enforce that responsibility on them. Having said all of this, there are still some challenges. Firstly, infrastructure. Immediately we cannot fix infrastructure because it incurs a cost. Let's say a very old building, like any property you take, it's probably an ancestral property for them. You have to invest some money to repair it. Most people have this jugaad mentality that okay, chalta hai attitude. They'll just keep running those buildings. Take a look at the hostels in and around here. Lot of ceilings have drainage seeping issues. Rainwater gets seeped into this ceilings. Since there is demand and there is a continuous influx of students. That's what happened in Delhi ORN also. Students' concerns were not taken into consideration. And you know what happened? In that area, students were protesting against the kind of house rents that were charged for the facilities that they are given, basic facilities. Overcrowding. You cannot stop the crowd sometimes, even after taking so much measures, because of excitement. Behavior and communication, for example, unruly actions, you create rumors, and announcements are simply not reaching the crowd. Having a loudspeaker is not good enough. We need to improve our communication systems. Probably, see, there is a challenge. If you want to send out messages to the crowd, either so many people are concentrated in that area that signals become weak. So you have to amplify signals. But if you're amplifying signals, there is a danger of fake news also getting spread. How do you deal with this? So it's always better to avoid situations and places like that when you know that there will be a lot of euphoria. Finally, it is about the regulatory gaps. You know the buildings are not good enough for conducting that kind of an event, and yet we are normalizing that, and that's the reason for a lot of stampedes. So you need to leverage AI and predictive data analytics for solving the problem of stampede. Okay, so you can anticipate a direct question on stampede management, 10 marks in GS3, maybe this year or next year sometime, as a man-made disaster. Okay, go through the NDMA guidelines once again, come up with value addition in terms of real life examples from newspapers. Okay, that's it for now. See you in the next class tomorrow.